Hello, friends. Thanks for tuning in. I have a free gift I want to get into the hands of Fearless Podcast subscribers. It's my new free ebook, Making a Holy Shift. What's a holy shift? Listen, here at Life Church, we use principles of improv comedy to go further, faster. You see, there's principles of comedy like yes and, think ensemble, fail harder. Principles of improv comedy that will help you jumpstart your life and move things further, faster at your business or ministry. It's all in my new free ebook, Making a Holy Shift. Just go to breaking1000.com to get your free download. That's breaking1000.com and download your free copy of my new ebook, Making a Holy Shift, using principles of comedy as we reopen our doors in a post-COVID-19 world. And stick around later during the break. I have another exclusive for Fearless Podcast listeners. But today I'm excited to welcome New York Times best-selling author of Love Does, Bob Goff. He's here on episode 32 of the Fearless Podcast.
I'm Jonathan Herron, a guy from Iowa who married his high school sweetheart and adopted 5 amazing kiddos. 7 years ago, I started a new modern church from scratch that is now the 11th fastest growing church in America. I also wrote a best-selling book on using principles of comedy and leadership, and along the way, I've discovered a passion for helping ordinary people jumpstart their lives and fearlessly chase their dreams and purposes in life. So each week, I'll be sharing insanely practical advice and inspiring interviews to help you jumpstart your life and become fearless. These are the tools to change your life. This is the Fearless Podcast.
Hey, Jonathan, how you doing there?
How you doing?
It's been a great, busy day like all of these. I think a lot of people thought they were going to be tapping the brakes during this 6 or 8 weeks, but it feels like you hit the gas by mistake. So it's just been really active. How about for you? The same?
Yes, very, very busy.
Yeah, and then what you do is you try to do a bunch of things like we were talking about. You find the fast ponies, you find these ambitions that you have, and then you start them, and then you see which ones are taking hold for a reason that you can understand or one that you'll understand later. But you just know that one has a little bit of traction for some reason, and just keep doing more of that if it lights you up and less of it if it doesn't. I know that that idea to go with the things that you're passionate about. And then the beautiful thing is our passions are always changing. So they're changing for me, they're changing for you. And so I want my activities to reflect that. We just got this equestrian ranch that I've been telling you about. The deal just came through. So we're going to start moving. It turns out they're called stalls, not cages for horses. But I don't know anything about horses, but I'm so excited. We're going to get our first 2 on Thursday. And I guess we need a bale of hay or something. I don't know. So it is like, it was easier when you got a goldfish and you just brought that home. They give you some food. This is like I think it weighs a lot. So we're going to figure it out.
Bob, thank you for being with us. And the big question I have for you is, we all entered 2020 with dreams. You have a new book coming out, Dream Big. And then this crazy shutdown happened. All of our dreams kind of crashed or went on pause. Help us out. We got a lot of listeners who are entrepreneurial, and we're feeling a lot of fear. We're kind of uncertain about what's ahead. You are the guy that blows up the balloons and gets the party started. So help us out in pushing past our fears. What does that look like in this post-COVID-19 world?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think what it starts with is an awareness of what your fears are. So instead of a general feeling of melancholy or fear or joy or whatever it is, but understand where's that coming from, because something you might be arguing with a person that is difficult. But when you figure out where that's actually coming from, you're really arguing with their father at 8 years old who didn't give them approval, and they're looking to you for something they didn't get earlier. So I would just say, I'm not saying get inside everybody's head, but why not start by getting inside your own head and figuring out what are you afraid of? Or if you're feeling rushed or hassled, just say, just in a moment of pause, just say where that's coming from. You used to be able to say you didn't have time for that, but actually you do have time. Earth just called you a liar like 7 weeks ago. So you have time for those things. So to say, what's the thing underneath the thing? So if you're feeling fearful, let's say, to say, well, what's the thing underneath the thing? And what it really is that you're afraid you're going to lose your job. Now, there's half the people that are listening that are afraid they're going to lose their job, and the other half are afraid they're going to keep their job. But figure out, what are you afraid of? And it's, I'm going to lose my job. And why are you afraid of that? You say, because that could be like awesome. But you say like, oh, I'm afraid of that because I don't have enough money, because I got to make rent. I have these responsibilities. And so where is that coming from? And say, well, the reality is I live in an expensive apartment, or I live in a meager apartment, but it comes from this idea that there won't be enough. And then eventually you're going to find about an 8-year-old version of you that was told by somebody that was trying to love them that money is scarce and you need to hang on to yours. You need to work very hard. And so fast forward that however many decades you've been around the sun, and it expresses itself in fear, but it really was this idea of scarcity 3 decades ago. And so I'd say just getting current with that. Now, some people have some things to be afraid of. They actually have been exposed to, a disease, or they are working in an environment where they might, and you say, yeah, I know exactly what I'm afraid of. It's that I'm going to get contaged and all this. And I would say, just get super real with that. And then say, is there anything I can do about it? If the fear is lack of money, say like, is there anything I can do? Short of knocking off a liquor store, is there something I can do about it? Is there something I can do about my circumstances? Or I'll tell you, there's one thing that you can do something about, is who the people are that you're listening to or palling around with. I would just do a quick little audit to say, who are big voices in your life and what are they saying? Because if they're very negative messages and all that, I'm not just being yippee skippy. I'm a pretty positive guy, but I'm pretty picky about who I give the microphone to in my life. So that is really worth doing a quick audit to say, take a day and start writing down on a 3x5 card all the influences on your life, whatever news you get, whatever radio you listen to, the people. You could say it might be a family member, it might be a boss, soon to be ex-boss, it might be, so who knows what it is, but I would say, who are the influences? And then kind of rate them 1 to 10 on, are they moving me forward with my ambitions? That's a 10. Or are they pulling me back from my ambition? That's a 1. And so you can look at it. I'm not saying rate them 1 to 10 as a person, because Jesus says, we're all at one level 1s and another level 10s. This idea of grace and love and acceptance, but the realization of this idea of selfishness that we have. But I would say, if you could rank those, I think you could just say, if I'm not getting surrounded by at least a score of 30 to 40, then I need to change something up. I just need some positive people in my life. Call me up. I'm a pretty positive guy. Yeah.
Well, you and I were talking a few months ago about this, about facing our fears. And you started talking to me about we have these rules that we teach ourselves when we're kids. And it was probably the most remarkable thing I had heard. And so I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that. Someone picks on little Johnny, and that's created this rule. What does that look like?
Oh, yeah. Because if little Johnny is my buddy, I made the rule early on, I stick up for my friends. And so then fast forward that I go to law school, I stick up for my friends. And then you fast forward, and as a trial lawyer, you say, I stick up for my friends. But then transition that into your personal life. And there was a guy that runs in our posse that said something just lame. He had been left unattended for 5 or 10 minutes. He put something, and everybody just lost their minds because of what he said. And there was somebody, a guy that I was aware of, but we hadn't had a chance to become friends yet. But he started like kind of fomenting more discord around this weeks after my friend had blown it on social media. He started, and I decided I was going to take him out. And I've got a pretty fast tongue. And so I called him up and I gave him both barrels. As I'm laying into him to let him know that he needs to back off of my friend, concurrently, I look in this news feed on Twitter. My friend has sent the nicest, most humble, apologetic, kind email. He said, man, you're absolutely right. I really made a mistake there. And I'm just so grateful that you had the courage to point this out to me and remind me about the guy I want to be and all that. You know what I was doing? I was back with 8-year-old Bobby trying to protect Johnny. And this is 6 decades later. And my friend didn't need protecting. Jesus doesn't need protecting. And some of these things that we're doing, it's because we made an agreement with ourselves. I am the rescuer. I am the person, the protector. I am the whatever. Or you got your heart broken in a relationship. And so you said, I will never give my heart away fully again. You made this stupid rule. And I'm saying, let's revisit this thing. Let's treat it like NAFTA, like we could renegotiate that deal. I think it was stupid to do that, but it's a great idea to renegotiate some of these rules that you made in your life. And I think when we do that, we have to understand the rule so that we can update the rule. And I think if we do that, we're in really good shape.
So some of us, had dreams for this season right now. We all kind of thought, this is what my life is going to look like in May 2020. And then, we find ourselves locked down, and some of us are afraid to move forward. What would you say to some of the listeners who they're just coasting right now when they need to get back in the saddle again and press forward? How would you motivate them? What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say if your feet are up on the handlebars right now and you're just you're feeling like that you have no sway in this. There's nothing you can do, that you feel like you're completely at the mercy of these events unfolding. I would revisit that rule. First, I'd try to understand it. Why do I react by interlocking my fingers behind my head and just chilling out? Or for other people that are bouncing off the walls like Roger Rabbit, say, why are you medicating your anxiety with activity? But I would just try to, again, understand it. And then to say, how can I be the best new version of me? So like old Bob, I've been hanging out with him for 60 years. But like new Bob, I just met. And say, so what is new Bob about? Oh, new Bob evidently has an opportunity to raise some horses. New Bob has an opportunity to figure out which end to put the hay in. Like new Bob has the opportunity to, whatever you can say, be as engaged as you want. But I want to do it with a depth and clarity about what do I really want to be at my core? Not just the activities, feed the horse, buy the gas, get the groceries, but to say, who am I? In addition to like my worldview that I'm like a child of God, I also am saying I'm a husband because I said I do a while ago. And so how can I live into the best version of that? One thing that I learned how to do 7 weeks ago, I am not kidding. I'm a little bit ashamed. Wash the dishes. It's been 32 and a half years. And I don't think I've washed a dozen dishes, just never came up. Evidently, they just load themselves, unload themselves, and they're served again. And I discovered this thing, it's called a sink. And so there are dishes, they collect there. It's like a little reunion. And so I invited myself to that party. And it wasn't because somebody told me to. And you know what's crazy? I actually kind of look forward to washing the dishes now. It's just this routine. I replaced an old way of doing things with a new way of doing things. It wasn't because Sweet Marie gave me a chore. It was because I just discovered him. I identify as not just Maria's husband, but I would self-identify as a dishwasher now. Like I do that because I have the time, I'm around, the dishes are there, I'm there. It's a party.
That's so cool. It's also been neat during this season that we're all in of lockdown, of just seeing you on social media reading your book to children, like my own kids. I got 5 children, and we've been tuning in on Instagram Live as you read a chapter from Love Does for Kids.
Oh, I got to do that again tonight. It's actually been fun because my daughter and I wrote the book, and we're just finishing up the next one. I wrote a book called Everybody Always, and then we wrote a book together called Everybody Always for Kids. And so it's been so fun to do that. So if you're listening, I'd pull over to a wide spot in the road and say, one of the things like New You, you're going to co-author a book together with your kids about some stories out of their life. And I'll tell you, think of it for this reason. You're going to do it for your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren, who, if you're my age, you will not meet. So I'm just saying for these people that are yet to come, that you took this crazy time where you were told to stay at home, and then you just decided to write some beautiful stories. And you don't need to be Hemingway to do it. Just say the time that something happened and what you learned. So there you go. That's it. Talk about what happened, what you learned. And do that 35 times, you got a book.
And what was it? You were telling me something about the kids and pennies. And I just went, yep, that's another Bob story.
Yeah, that was by way of example, a story we wrote in the book was me remembering when I was a young boy, and I would get a handful of change from my parents, and I didn't really even know how to count it very well, but I knew there was like nickels and dimes and pennies, and they were worth different ththings. But if I brought a big handful of change, I could get a candy bar. And so one time I put all the change on the counter, and the guy, like in the vest, and he smelled like pipe tobacco, and he sorted out all the money, and he looked up to me and he said, "You're a penny short." And I was like, oh, which is like an existential crisis when you're like 7 or 8 years old, because there's no way to fix that. Now I could have formed the opinion that money will be in short supply my entire life. I could have made a rule with myself, always get more of that so you can never be told you came up short. But this guy changed it. He took one of the pennies, put it behind the counter, shined it up, and when he put it back on the counter, he said, "Shiny pennies are worth 2." And I'm like, I believed him. I think, John, I was in college before somebody told me shiny pennies are only worth 1. Because somebody who was really kind intersected a point in time I was really in need, and he used some really kind words, and he made a new rule for me that shiny pennies are worth 2. So Sweet Marie and I have been writing letters to, I bet over 1,000 young people, because at the end of one of these readings, I was talking about that, and I said, hey, parents, if you want me to send your kid a shiny penny, just send me their address. And so I got all these things. I'm like, holy moly. But we spent the first week in quarantine just writing to kids and telling them how shiny pennies are worth 2. And it isn't paying it forward. It's just exposing some of the better rules, and that we could make new rules, and they come from kind people. The people that made rules, whether your faith tradition was surrounded with people that made rules about God, like waving a bony finger at you, I just think it'd be worth finding some people that would just make kinder rules. I'm not saying negotiate with God, because I think truth is truth, but I think that humility speaks over that we have a lot to learn, and that we can just be really kind while we're learning it. We could tell somebody, it wasn't a mistruth that he told me. These weren't alternate facts. He just made a new rule that in his candy store, shiny pennies are worth 2. And we get to make those kinds of rules about the way we give our love away.
More of my conversation with Bob Goff in just a moment. Listen, everybody is talking about reopening their doors in a post-COVID-19 world. Now is the perfect time to make a holy shift. See, whether you're trying to jumpstart your life or to move further faster with your business or ministry, you can do it. I can help We use principles of improvisational comedy to reach more people. 7 years ago, we started this ministry from scratch, and it's now the 11th fastest growing church in America. Why? Because we use principles of comedy in how we communicate, how we build leaders and lead staff teams. It's all found in my best-selling book, Holy Shift. Laughing your mass off and quickly reaching more people. Perfect for you in a post-COVID-19 world. What better time to start something fresh and new with comedy skills than right now as you're reopening your doors. In Holy Shift, you're going to discover easy comedy principles like start with a yes, think ensemble, fail harder. And I have an exclusive for Fearless podcast listeners. Are you sitting down? You might want to buckle up. On June 1st, we're releasing Making a Holy Shift video series. 15 fun, easy videos that walk you and your team from where you are now to where you want to be using principles of improvisational comedy. And if you grab your copy of Making a Holy Shift video series right now, the early bird special is 50% off. That's crazy. Just head over to breaking1000.com. When you order Making a Holy Shift, the video series, you get not only 15 amazing HD videos on demand, but also a signed copy of the new edition of Holy Shift, my ebook, Making a Holy Shift, plus 3 months of personal leadership coaching to help you go further faster. So what are you waiting for? Head over to breaking1000.com, breaking1000.com. The early bird special, 50% off of our new Making a Holy Shift video series now through June 1st. June 1st, it goes full price, so don't delay. breaking1000.com. Right now, we're going to dive back into my conversation with Bob Goff. He's going to share some amazing insights from blue plaid shirts. You don't want to miss that. And then stick around after the conversation. I've got another free exclusive gift for you on the Fearless podcast.
Maybe it's understanding what people are trying to control, because at a time where control is taken away from you, people say, well, you can't do this, or you can't give hugs, or can't be with 6 feet there, and don't go to the barber and all that, unless you're in Georgia and everything's fine. But one of the things that people that don't want to be told what to do, they start controlling other people. You can tell because you're a little short with the people that you love. You're short with your coworkers. And what you're really doing, the pent up frustration, is that you don't feel like you control this crazy stuff that's going on. So you say, well, I'm exerting a ton of control over this circumstance. I don't care whether it's a vending machine that you just slugged or whatever it is, but you're just exerting a weird amount of control over something else. So this is just a bid for understand what's going on, just being self-aware enough to say, like, actually, I can chill out and give yourself a break on this. You get a hall pass on some of the things. I think some people got wounded along the way or shut in, and so they decided to go just off the charts on that. They got inside the vault, they closed the door behind them, and that makes for a really dark place. They're so afraid of what might happen in their lives. So I think we can control these things in a beautiful way. I think we can just find better words. Like we don't use the word virus around here. We talk about glitter. And we say, just don't get the glitter on you. So and if you have kids, just give them a handful of glitter and have them touch a couple things. They'll get what is happening. And so just substitute some of the words that you've been using for new words, fresher words. It's like needle exchange. Nobody gets anything bad. So what I want you to do is exchange some words that you've used. If you're in a faith community that uses words that the guy at the tire store wouldn't know what you're talking about. You know, I was convicted. I teach at San Quentin. I know guys that were convicted, like multiple 100-year sentences. That's a conviction. What you have is just a good idea. So just say it's a good idea. You don't have to dress it up. You don't have to dress it down. It's like a turtleneck. It's just fine. If you could just say, I'm going to just use very plain words to describe, I'm going to try to use the most fanciful but yet understandable metaphors for what I'm feeling. You could have family members go out once a day, take a walk, find a rock, a stick, a leaf, a slug, a ladybug, anything without a face, bring it home, put it in a bowl, and then talk about why did you pick that? How does that express how you feel? And to say you have teenagers who are having trouble, send them out. Say, go find a piece of bark, anything but the front fender of your neighbor's car, and then just say, this is how I feel and why. I'm telling you, those are the kinds of things that we can push back against the frightening things in our life by pushing into whimsy, pushing into creativity, and pausing to ask each other, like, how do you feel? Like, what would that feel like? Like, it would be, did you have, for conversation starters when you were growing up, a box of questions that were like, had all the questions? I know when we were trying to figure out if my sons had a girlfriend, we would like stack the deck. It's like, so how do you feel about relationships? We throw out all the questions we weren't interested. But why don't you, instead of relying on that box, get some 3x5 cards out? If you're a parent, write some questions. Give some crayons to your kids if they're young and say, hey, you're in on it too. You write your questions. And so put them in the middle, shuffle them up, and just say, let's just talk about that. That will transform a dinner table to being a place that you'll talk about when you're 20. Remember, we sat down during this time and we just talked about questions. And I'm telling you, you have got your rehearsal dinner gift. You just frame that question in crayon. Like, you're going to be sobbing when you give your kids away, but you just frame that. Say, this is a question you asked me back in 2020. I want to ask you this right now. Oh, I'm telling you, this could be among the best times. And what it takes is just a pinch of creativity.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, so when this lockdown occurred, like a couple weeks prior, there was Dream Big. I was with you at Dream Big, and I swiped one of the the airplanes.
I love that.
So I've kept this, and I'm just curious. We've got all these dreamers and leaders and entrepreneurial folks listening and watching us on YouTube, and now they're switching gears. And when I think of creativity, I think of you, Bob. How did you pivot, or how did you switch gears, from the plan that you thought you had for spring and summer, and now everything's changed? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's a changing and adapting, which everybody knows. You're wearing a blue plaid shirt. And did you know in Forrest Gump, every time he was going to change, he wore a blue plaid shirt? Did you know that? Yeah. When he went from like high school to college, from college to the military to shrimp boat painting, when he's painting the name on the shrimp boat, he's wearing a blue plaid shirt. Because every time they wove that into the story, a blue plaid shirt always meant that change was near. And so remember the last scene in Forrest Gump? His son, young Forrest, is getting on the bus. What's he wearing? Blue plaid shirt. And so I would say to the leaders that are tracking with you, get the plaids out. Get plaid boxers, get plaid shirts, get plaid haircuts, like whatever, get the plaids out. And see that this is going to be a change. Write your resignation letter, do whatever it is that you need to do to square with you to say, I'm going to emerge from this different than I went in. I used to go around speaking to people, and I would be on an airplane 5 or 6 days a week because I would run home in between gatherings. And I'm a little creeped out now about sitting in a hotel room that some dude just self-quarantined in for the last 2 weeks. And they put like a little strip of something over the toilet and say, you're good. I'm like, I don't think so. So I think I may be done with like that traveling around stuff, and which is really awesome. I want to get the plaids out and to say, okay, so who's new Bob? And instead of fearing that, I want to make a new rule that kind of change is good, that helps us catch up to ourselves. We get current with who we've emerged as individuals. We get current with our circumstance. We get current with the people that we love. And you know what? Maria would prefer if I wasn't on planes everywhere. She actually wants to spend time with me. I think I should take advantage of that. Don't you? So maybe what we can do for one another is give each other blue plaid shirts and to say, I'm not telling you what to change. I'm just giving you permission to change. Maybe get your staff together wherever it is that you're serving and give everybody permission to change. My staff is scattered around in all of their living rooms now. And I think I should probably hang up with you when we're done and give them the opportunity to quit with full pay. Like I should say, if you need to, I'll just keep paying you, but you could quit and do something else if you'd like. Wouldn't that be neat if we could figure out ourselves and give ourselves permission to put on the plaids? Then maybe we could pass the plaids on to some people around us that are counting on us to say, well, who's the woman you're turning into? And is this job, although you're capable of it, is this the thing that you feel compelled to do? Is this something, are you just trying to make rent, or were you trying to make a difference? And I think it might be a great opportunity for us to kind of zero budget. And by zero budgeting, it was a thing we did for decades. On January 1st each year, we would cancel newspaper subscriptions when they had such a thing. Their paper, they were delivered to your door. So we would cancel newspapers, magazines, we'd quit clubs that we were part of. We would just, if we were part of a couple's Bible study, we'd let them know we're out. We would just zero out everything and start again and just add back things that were kind of keeping current with where we were as a couple, as a family. So I think there's beauty in that. It's all about the plaids.
I love it. I love it. Just when I thought I've heard it all, you just continue to just blow me away with.
I think your next book, it should be blue plaid. And people will be like, yeah, there was a J.B. Phillips Bible. They called it the Cookbook Bible. I've looked around forever to find one of these. I don't know if it's very accurate or not, but I just thought it was a really terrific Bible. And I'm picturing your next book, it's blue plaid. And people are like, what? Is this blue like jazz? No, like blue plaids. Get the plaids out. You're like, what?
Well, speaking of books, you have a new book coming out, Dream Big.
Yeah, who knew? Yeah, so the book will be a version for people who are creeped out of getting on an airplane and coming and visit with me. It would just be asking these questions that we're all asking, like, what are your ambitions? And then once you have an ambition, like, think, is there an opportunity for that? So you got your eyes open. Oh, when everybody went online, you know what I did? I called up Harvard and I said, can I teach a class? Now, I think the chances of them saying yes are zero, but I'm like, why not? They're going online. I can stroke my beard, smoke a pipe, and say, but I'd say this is actually probably a different thing. But I also teach a class at San Quentin and one at Pepperdine. And so I thought, well, why not? Why not just ask the question? Would this be my whole new Bob? No, it'd just be one more thing. I have 16 things I do. I know that it's not some magic number. I just keep track of what I'm doing, and there's 16 of them. And there might be 17 later and 15 even later, but there's 16 things I do, and I do a bit of an audit. I go through, these are ambitions of mine, and then is there any way I can push that like just a little bit forward? So you look for an opportunity, and then you take action, because you can have an ambition that's just like brain candy that just you never do anything with. And then expect that there'll be setbacks. I'm like a really positive guy, but I don't like act surprised when something doesn't work. If I do this horse thing and it doesn't work and they all run away, I imagine I'll go catch them, but I'll stop doing horses. I'll switch to buffaloes. I'll like get the plaids out and I'll have plaid buffaloes. But when there's setbacks, I want you to practice in the mirror, if you're a leader, your poker face. Don't look all upset and surprised when it didn't work, because you were part of hatching the idea. It was doomed to not work. So I expect these setbacks, but the next idea was to sustain belief, to remember why it was that you set out to do this in the first place. And then finally, we talk in the book about landing the plane, to just, instead of circling the field, just get that thing on the ground. And the difficulty, if you remember what it was like a long time ago to be on planes, when you come in and you're just over the numbers, they cut the engines, and there's a thing, it's called the ground effect. It's where you kind of balloon for about 100 yards before you set down. You're just hovering there. It's because the wind is going over the wings, hitting the ground, and pushing up against the plane that's trying to land. And so too, there will be some resistance along the way, but still you get the wheels on the ground and you say, no, I'm just going to actually overcome whatever this was. I didn't know anything about videotaping and all this. And like, we've got this crazy studio set up here in my garage now. And for $100 of lights and a camera with a button that says record, they just go like, oh, wow, actually we can still get some content out to people. And if I get bored of doing that, I'm going to get the plaids out and I'm going to go do the next thing. And so I think whatever it is, to perhaps make a list of your ambitions. I would think more about character and less about career. If you say like sword swallower, but then you get the hiccups, it's not like a bad day. It's like an identity crisis because you can't swallow swords effectively anymore. But if you say, I want to be available, then you can do that every time you answer the phone. Every time that you go to I want to be kind, you can do that. Don't practice with me because I'm easy. Practice being kind with somebody who's a jerk. And don't let them know I'm practicing with you because you're a jerk, because that will inflame their jerkiness. But what I want to do is pick an ambition beyond like climbing Kilimanjaro. That's terrific, but you're going to go up, maybe to the top, maybe not. You'll come back down. But if it's kind, you'll always be having that. It's going to permeate every area of your marriage, your life, your friendships. So I would pick ambitions that are worth the time that it's going to take to achieve them.
Wow. I'll tell you what, bobgoff.com has ways that people can connect with you, and picking up one of your books, it feels just like this, just talking. So I'm super excited about the Dream Big book coming out. Do you have any last thoughts, for people that are still hedging their bets, they're still just wanting to coast through the season? Any last kick in the rear or go get them?
Oh, I was thinking there's some people that you may have heard the conversation and thinking about this ambition that you have, whatever it is. And I'm thinking for some reason about Toy Story, where Buzz Lightyear is trying to tell everybody he can fly. And then all the other toys are saying, you can't fly. And he says, can too. And they said, cannot and can too. Stop having arguments with people about your ambitions. You're not trying to build consensus. You're trying to build a kingdom. And I remember how that little exchange ends. Somehow Buzz jumps off the ball. He hits a spring. He ricochets off the wall. He hits the fan on the ceiling. It throws him across the room, and he lands. He puts his arms across his chest, and he says, can. Like, that's the gospel right there. Just can. And so there might be something that you've been kind of tapping the brakes on that you just would be embarrassed if it didn't work. Get over it. Fail trying, don't fail watching.
Bob, you are a gift to the world. Dream Big is coming out soon in paperback, and we can find you online at Bob Goff. Thank you so much.
Thanks a million. Keep those plaids on.
That's right.
Wow, I am so thankful for Bob, the impact he makes on my life. And listen, you can make an impact on other people's lives too. Whether it means jumpstarting your life or going further, faster with your business or ministry, you can do it. I can help. In just a second, I want to get another free gift into your hands. But first, I want to remind you of the 50% off early bird special exclusive to you, our Fearless Podcast listeners, at breaking1000.com. Making a Holy Shift, the video series based on my best-selling book, Making a Holy Shift, is 15 on-demand video lessons about learning and applying principles of comedy in your team, in your communication style. Plus, you get a signed copy of Holy Shift, you get my new free ebook, and 3 months of personal private leadership coaching. Making a Holy Shift, the video series, available 50% off now through June 1st at breaking1000.com. And if you want some more from Bob Goff, we have an exclusive for Fearless Podcast listeners, a free copy of the first chapter of Bob's new book, Dream Big. Just hop on over to breaking1000.com and you can download your free copy of the first chapter of Dream Big by Bob Goff. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Fearless Podcast. Make sure that you are subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts or over on our new YouTube channel, Fearless Leadership. That way you'll never miss out on more insanely practical tips for life, business, and ministry, as well as inspiring interviews from people like Bob Goff. I'm Jonathan Herron. Hope to connect with you online at HighFiveJon, at HighFiveJon. I love you. I believe in you. The best is yet to come. Enjoy your burrito.